on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Run for Little Hearts. Thousands join TV Derana to raise funds for infants with heart defects. Over 21 million rupees raised. Future of sytem. Government to abolish sytem and convert it into a not-for-profit entity. To have or not to have. Constitutional Assembly's 3-day debate on proposals to commence tomorrow. Conflict resolution. Venerable Professor Madhagodabe Satera highlights the President as the one capable of resolving the country's ethnic issue. And making headlines overseas, Icelandic polls. Ruling centre-right parties lose majority after a tight election. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. Now, after continued protests, debate and uncertainty, a decision on the South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine is finally made. The government today announced that the sytem medical faculty in Malabé will be abolished as per solutions proposed by the Presidential Committee appointed to resolve the issue. The institute will thereby be convened, or converted rather, and operated as a non-state, not-for-profit entity. Issuing a communique today, the Government Information Department said a committee comprising high-level officials will be immediately appointed to coordinate the implementation of the proposed measures before the end of this year.
8 proposals have been put forward as course of action by the Presidential Committee appointed to solve issues in relation to the Faculty of Medicine of sytem, after considering recommendations put forth by numerous stakeholder groups, including the deans of faculties of medicine of all state universities. The statement by Government Information Department today said the proposals will be implemented in order to arrive at a permanent solution that is reasonable to all stakeholders and in keeping with government policy. The statement says sytem will be abolished in a legally acceptable manner, ending the existing ownership and management structure whereby the profit-oriented entity owned and managed by Dr. Neville Fernando and family would cease to exist. Furthermore, assets, liabilities, staff and students of sytem shall be transferred to a non-state, non-for-profit making degree awarding entity that complies with the minimum standards on medical education and training. Government is expected to shortly commence discussions pertaining to establishing the proposed not-for-profit entity with interested parties. It is also proposed that the new entity recognize all students currently enrolled at sytem possessing required entry qualifications. However, former students who have completed their degrees will be addressed on the advice of the Sri Lanka Medical Council based on the determination of the filed Supreme Court case. Meanwhile, arrangements will be made for students who completed their degrees to undergo clinical training at recommended government hospitals. It is also proposed to continue the suspension of enrolling new students to sytem as per a letter issued by the Secretary to the Ministry of Higher Education dated September 15, 2017. Admissions will only be made to the new entity once compliance with the minimum standards of medical education and training is fulfilled. The statement added that the current shareholders of sytem shall not participate in the ownership or management of the new entity, adding that the cooperation of Dr. Neville Fernando and family is extremely important in this regard. It is also proposed that the Ministry of Health must mandatorily gazette and place before Parliament within 1 month the agreed minimum standards for medical education and training based on the draft submitted by the SLMC. Once all tasks and agreements are complete, the new entity is to be established under the supervision of the Ministry of Higher Education and the University Grants Commission. The communique noted that the entire process should complete by the 31st of December this year.
Meanwhile, organising a rally in Colombo today, anti-sytem people's movement insisted they will not accept the government's proposal to resolve the sytem issue. We should somehow protect free education. We are here to fulfill that objective, overcoming any obstacle. This profit-based, non-standardized entity should be abolished.
This document has been released without a date through Government Information Department. It was signed by the Director General of Government Information Department, Attorney at Law Sudarshana Gunawardena. I compare the earlier solution and this document. We clearly witnessed that some points have been dropped from this document. The government was unable to provide a final solution. We remind the President once again that if he intends to give a real solution to this issue, these proposals should be forwarded to the Supreme Court. As a show of everyone's opposition, I shall tear this apart. Hereafter, the government does not have to provide solution for this issue. They only have to implement the proposed solution. We only have to compare any future solution with the current solution and decide whether to accept it or not.
The chairman of the Presidential Committee to resolve issues related to sytem, Deputy Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva, also elaborated on the proposals made. Government's policy is to provide higher education to a considerable number through not-for-profit entities. The President approved this decision as per that policy of the government. I also saw that links between sytem and SLIT made headlines in the media. SLIT was never mentioned in our proposals. We propose that sytem be merged with a not-for-profit higher education institute. SLIT falls under that category. Now, the interim committee report rather, produced by the Steering Committee of the Constitutional Assembly, which was tabled in Parliament on the 21st of September, is scheduled to be taken up for debate tomorrow through Wednesday. For the next 3 days, Parliament will convene as the Constitutional Assembly.
Formula, principles and observations of political parties on areas of executive presidency, sovereignty, electoral system, devolution of power and distribution of lands are scheduled to be taken up for debate throughout the 3 days. Observations of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress are also scheduled to be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. Meanwhile, several views were expressed on the matter at various political platforms.
A constitution hasn't been presented in Parliament yet. We only have suggestions. Thereby, unnecessary fear should not be triggered in the country. A constitution cannot be formed against the wishes of people, and the final decision is up to the masses. My conscience will not allow me to sign anything that is harmful to the people, the country or to Buddhism. The Speaker says he will not ink his signature if it is harmful to the nation or to Buddhism. What base does this statement hold if it passes in Parliament with a 2/3 majority?
Venerable Professor Madhagoda Abedisathere says that President Maithripala Sirisena is the only leader who will be able to provide a solution to the national issue with agreement sought from all ethnic communities of the country. He made the remark addressing a Katina Puja ceremony and the opening of the new conference hall at the Papiliana Sunetra Devi Pirivan Rajamahaviharaya today.
The ceremony, presided over by President Maithripala Sirisena, was witnessed by a gathering including the Mahasangha, ministers and parliamentarians.
Recently, we held discussions with the President for about 1 hour and 45 minutes. The President has good patience to listen. During our meeting, he expressed patriotic feelings about the nation. He also paid attention to the conflict between minorities and the majority. These issues may have risen due to the actions of politicians. The President expressed his intention to end this issue, adding that he has no further political ambition. We are assured that you are the only person who can find a solution to this problem.
Resolution of conflict is a science. Buddhist philosophy places foremost importance to conflict resolution, dialogue, problem solving and social peace. Buddhist philosophy provides basic guidance on conflict resolution. All of us, including the Mahasangha, have a duty and a responsibility to seek solutions for the country's problems and conflicts. Rejecting assertions pertaining to the existence of constitutional drafts, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe insists that only a report containing views and suggestions of political parties is there for consideration. The Prime Minister made these remarks today at a ceremony held in Hatton to present Harita Bhumi deeds for residences currently being built for workers of the estate sector. Even the Tamil National Alliance and the Tamil parties of the North have for the first time in history stated that they will consider such a solution provided the two main parties agree on it. We should come together as a unitary state, and we're working towards this. Some speak of constitutional drafts, but we are yet to do that. There is still time for it. What we have now is a report which does not hold any legal clout, that contains opinions of parties. We can select suitable suggestions. The majority of the nation is Sinhala Buddhist, and therefore we will not infringe on those rights. We will ensure our territorial integrity. Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, emphasises that secularism does not suit Sri Lankan culture. He made the remark at an event held in Negombo yesterday.
The ceremony of crowning the statue of Mother Mary, situated in the city of Negombo, was held under the patronage of Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith.
At an era where the need to instill peace in the country is more urgent than ever, let us understand that peace cannot be achieved by drawing society away from religion. No matter what religion is followed, politicians should protect the environment needed to practice that faith. Thus, secularism does not suit the culture of our nation. Speaker of the Parliament, Karu Jayasuriya reiterates that the proposed new constitution cannot be passed against the wishes of the public. Responding to journalists following an event in Kandy, he said a decision will be taken in Parliament on MP Wimal Weerawansa's comment that Parliament should be bombed.
We can arrive at a decision by debating on this matter. After taking a decision, we can meet religious leaders of the country, and then public opinion should be considered. The final decision will be taken by the people. But it is unfair to give a negative interpretation to the public even before it is discussed. If the constitution turns unfair for some religions and communities, my conscience will not allow me to sign it. The President and the Prime Minister have assured that it will be discussed with the religious leaders following the debates. I'm worried about it. Parliament is not a place to bomb anybody. It is there for debate and discussion. I will take it up in the Parliament, and then the House will decide forward action.
In the meantime, addressing a public rally in Dankotua, parliamentarian Wimal Weerawansa continued to bolster his recent statement on bombing Parliament, which stirred a storm of controversy during the past few days. During his address, he also touched on the proposed new constitution.
Some NGOs want us to listen to them, saying there is no need to heed the chief prelates. According to historic tradition, was it the NGOs who shaped our spiritual lives? If Parliament cannot enact a law with regard to provincial councils, why should it even exist? Someone should either bomb it from above, or an earthquake should sink it in Derana. Speaker Karu Jayasuriya sends a letter making a massive issue out of it. He doesn't even give the 54 parliamentarians of the joint opposition their rights.
Now, police commenced investigations into 3 separate shootings in Koskoda today. Police say that 4 people were killed in the incidents, adding that a dispute between 2 groups may have been the cause.
A father and 2 sons were fatally shot when 4 unidentified gunmen broke into their residence in Yudapiti at Lelihettuwa, Koskoda at 3:45 this morning. The 3 family members succumbed to their injuries upon admission to the Alpiti hospital. Preliminary police investigations revealed that the shooting was carried out by 4 gunmen who arrived on 2 motorcycles. One of the victims was a former UMP provincial councillor at the Balapitiya Pradeshiya Sabha. Thereafter, the suspects forcefully entered another residence in Manigama, also located in Koskoda, and fatally shot a 38-year-old. His body is currently placed at the Balapitiya Base Hospital. Meanwhile, a 15-year-old boy was shot in Kurundugama PSA in Koskoda today. He was rushed to the Balapitiya Base Hospital and was later transferred to the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital for further treatment. Police say preliminary investigations revealed that the cause of the shooting is suspected to be a long-standing dispute between 2 parties. It was also revealed that a court case is currently being heard on the dispute at the Balapitiya court. According to the police media spokesperson's office, officers from Ahungalla, Ambalangoda and Alpitiya police stations were deployed to conduct investigations into the case.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
As TV Derana celebrates 12 years of excellence, Run for Little Hearts Walk and Run was worked off at the Independence Square this morning to bolster the Little Hearts project. Thousands of generous hearts joined hands with the campaign, and their participation in Run for Little Hearts raised over 21 million rupees.
Thousands of little children suffering from heart diseases in Sri Lanka do not have timely access to treatment and often do not live to see their first birthday. To give these children yet another chance at life, Derana joined hands with the Little Hearts project initiated by the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians to raise funds for the construction of a 10-story building housing cardiac intensive care unit at the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital. 2 billion rupees are required for this endeavour, of which 180 million rupees had been raised by the time the foundation stone was laid for the building. As the next step in the initiative, Run for Little Hearts kicked off in line with the 12th anniversary of TV Derana. The marathon began at 7 this morning near the Independence Square and took place along a stretch of approximately 8 kilometers. The marathon was held under women's and men's categories with the participation of national level athletes. The walk took place simultaneously with the participation of many artists, sports personalities and intellectuals. Derana, as concerned citizens in Sri Lanka, initiated this campaign Run for Little Hearts to raise funds for infants who are with critical illnesses and heart diseases.
Little Hearts Foundation obviously is a foundation that helps young children to carry out heart transplants. So it's a very meaningful celebration here today.
We all have lovely hearts.
Derana TV always do the best. We have contributed a lot for Little Heart program.
Extremely happy to see the crowd and the initiative taken by Derana.
There are thousands of children in this country who cannot afford to do that. So this is a great service that we must complete this hospital as fast as possible. That's my wish before I die.
I think it was a great walk and a great cause. All the best to you guys. I think for you guys to come across and do something, great like this.
TV Derana telecasted the event live from 7 AM to 1 PM, and several donors including clergy, professionals and artists extended their help in raising awareness. Meanwhile, funds raised for Little Hearts by pairs, based on missed calls from the public, amounted to about 1 million rupees. Joining us via telephone, Minister of Agriculture Duminda Disanayake contributed 1 million rupees on behalf of his daughter Dinuli Disanayake. Responding to our call for donations, people from across the island generously flocked to Little Hearts centres to contribute their bit towards saving little lives. Meanwhile, the awards ceremony of the Run for Little Hearts marathon was held under the patronage of Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne. Marathon Olympian Niluka Rajasekara emerged first in the women's category, while KPR Saman Kumara won the men's category. Run for Little Hearts was able to raise a total of 21,724,175 rupees for the Little Hearts, thanks to the unwavering generosity of you, our viewers.
Now, Sri Lanka is a country where 51% of the population are women. However, a new study commissioned by the United Nations Population Fund reveals that 90% of Sri Lankan women have endured sexual harassment while being in public transport. Harassment can emerge in any form and can occur in private or public life, between family and friends, or at workplace, in public areas and transportation. Although to the recipient the act is unwelcome, the perpetrator may view it as complimentary, harmless, funny, normal and even flattering. First at 9's Katrina Chang makes this report on whether legal measures are strong enough to combat the issue of harassment in Sri Lanka and other parts of the world.
This week in Strasbourg, France, European Union lawmakers held a debate on sexual harassment as questions are raised about the EU institution's own record in dealing with allegations of misconduct following a recent article in which female aides to members of the European Parliament alleged they were sexually harassed by politicians. The report prompted the European Parliament to call an emergency debate on the topic to vote on a non-binding resolution on sexual harassment.
Just like millions of other women in the European Union. And I think it's about time that we very clearly say that we should not be ashamed, but that the perpetrators should be ashamed.
1 in every 3 women has been a victim of some sort of physical or sexual violence. But these statistics do not tell enough personal stories. Yes, we have a harassment committee, complaints procedures and what have you, but why have only 10 cases been brought forward since 2014?
We must get better at preventing harassment in the first place, better at encouraging the victims to come forward by giving guarantees that they will not lose their jobs, and better at acting swiftly once the investigation has been completed.
Although it's been almost 3 weeks since the launch of the #MeToo campaign, wounds remain fresh, cuts run deep, as women all over the world continue to raise their voices against sexual harassment. Over the past weeks, in our quest to find why such incidents occur, experts highlighted various factors from mental disorders to lack of education as reasons behind such behavior. While in Europe, legislative measures are being debated in Parliament, what measures must Sri Lanka initiate to combat harassment? Let's begin with the workplace.
When we consider our law established at the moment, really in corporate sectors, we have various type of workers' compensation, but there's no any word or a sentence given any of these way of recovery damages or for the defamations to go for defamations. The women doesn't have any sufficient rules and regulation in those acts. The problem die with them without getting any remedy.
How about protection for women in their day-to-day encounters?
In Sri Lanka, when there's a case filed against a person, take legal action, prosecution should prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. So when it goes to the evidence law, beyond reasonable doubt to prove a case, it's really difficult in this country. It takes time, it gives publicity. Again, second time the lady is harassed. Lady will have to explain that in public.
Now, if there's one thing that is evident about combating the problem of sexual harassment in the country and around the world, it is being able to have a proactive mechanism or a legal approach to take measures in order to combat this issue.
If we have no measures, no legal protection or social initiative, what must our first step be in combating this issue?
Main thing is, before we face the practical difficulties, the group of people, the legal draftman department, the practicing lawyer, some judges whom they handle these type of cases should sit together, discuss together, and see what type of way it has to be, because then only the things will be successful.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Now at the Colombo Bourse, the ASPI recorded a weekly gain of 0.6% during the last trading week, while the S&P SL20 index hit a weekly gain of 1.1%. The average daily turnover was down from last week to 833.4 million rupees. Banks, finance and insurance sector recorded the highest sector turnover during the week, whilst the second highest was seen in diversified sector. Foreigners remained active for the week, where foreign purchasers accounted for just 53.9% of total weekly turnover. For a detailed picture of how markets will perform during the upcoming week, we have Dimantha Matthew from First Capital with our weekly forecast.
Market witnessed sizable buying interest during last week with the results season starting. We expect results of most plantation companies to have performed well, while the earnings of other companies are likely to show signs of improvement compared to the floods affected June quarter. Amidst the signs of improving earnings, we expect strong buying interest to emerge in the plantation and material sectors, while improving overall economic conditions are likely to push foreigners further into the blue chip counters. We expect turnover levels to be high, and while the market to be on an upward momentum.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Derana 24/7.
Now to have a look at news from around the world. Iceland's main party, centre-right Independence Party, appears to remain ahead of the left-green movement, with the Social Democratic Alliance Party securing the third position in the early count of votes in snap election held yesterday. As for international media, however, the formation of coalition is said to be difficult as the Independence Party failed in securing an outright victory. The vote is the second snap election to be held in a period of 1 year after the centre-right government decided to step down following a series of political scandals.
Prime Minister Bjarni Benediktsson called the snap election last month after the Bright Future Party of the three-party centre-right coalition resigned over a legal scandal involving his father. The coalition was formed less than 10 months ago, resulting in the outgoing government to be the shortest living in the nation's history. All parties contending in the elections voiced the need for investment in the areas of welfare, infrastructure and tourism. However, the parties disagree upon the procedures of investment.
We're going to move for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for sports.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. Now, Sri Lanka's bowling attack failed once again as Pakistan scored 180 runs for the loss of 3 wickets in the third and final T20 match, which is currently underway at the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore, Pakistan.
Sri Lanka won the toss and elected to field first. Fakhar Zaman together with Umar Amin built a 57-run partnership for Pakistan. Zaman was bowled out by Dilshan Munawira for 31. Shoaib Malik together with Fahim Ashraf blasted Sri Lankan bowlers and took Pakistan to a competitive score. Malik was the highest scorer for Pakistan as he scored a half-century.
Go square. That's another boundary. This is turning out.
There's another. This one's going straight to the airport. Oh, brilliant. What a strike for Hay.
Now, in the tennising world, Luca Pui beat Jo-Wilfried Tsonga 6-1, 6-4 in the grand final of the Vienna Open. Home favourite Roger Federer, who secured a spot in the finals of the Swiss indoors, thrashing David Goffin at semis yesterday, is now tackling Argentine Juan Martín del Potro for the Swiss title.
Roger Federer swatted aside David Goffin 6-1, 6-2 to reach the final of his hometown tournament for the 13th time yesterday. The Swiss exhibited aggression against third seed David Goffin, barely making a mistake throughout their semi-final encounter. Argentine Juan Martín del Potro also advanced to the final after beating Croatia's Marin Cilic 6-4, 6-4 yesterday. At the Vienna Open yesterday, Luca Pui came from a set down to secure a semi-final win of 6-7, 6-4, 6-3 over Kyle Edmund. Jo-Wilfried Tsonga also booked a place in the final after beating Germany's Philipp Kohlschreiber in straight sets.
And let's now cross over to Sadhinu Upeka at the Derana Weather Centre with your forecast for the next 24 hours.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now, cooler temperatures will prevail across the island tomorrow, with the east coast experiencing a high of 29 degrees Celsius. Temperatures in the low 20s will continue in the central hills. Now, a low pressure zone will develop across the island during the course of the day, spelling heavy rainfall in several parts of the country, especially in the central hills. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And that's it from First at 9. And before we go, we'd like to take you to Mexico, where tens of thousands of revelers gathered for the annual Day of the Dead parade, part of one of the deepest rooted traditions in the country, celebrated by millions of people. Rescuers from Mexico's recent earthquake were given pride of place in yesterday's parade, with citizens applauding sniffer dogs and emergency services for their efforts. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.